The United Nations in Sri Lanka says hundreds of civilians have been wounded in recent clashes between government troops and Tamil Tigers. There are reports that the military has gained control of an area in the country's north, which was once a stronghold of the Tamil Tigers.
Aid agencies say thousands of civilians have been left stranded by the fighting over the past week. Sisira Jayasuriya is an associate professor in economics at Trobe University in Melbourne. He was born in Sri Lanka and has been following events there closely. And Sisira Jayasuriya joins us now. Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for joining us. And before we get to the humanitarian situation and talk about that, in your view, do you believe the end of the civil war there is now close?
No.
Why not?
I think this is going to be another phase of the struggle by the LTTE, primarily because until now there's no indication that their main military battalions and so on have been destroyed in any way. And they're past masters in the art of guerrilla warfare. They have done this before, and I suspect that what will happen is they will lose territory. They will certainly lose the capacity to control significant areas, major towns, and so on. But they'll melt into the jungles and go back into fighting.
Yeah, so they've lost their last stronghold in terms of a town in the country's north. Surely after that they haven't got anywhere to go.
I think there's no doubt that this is a very significant military setback for the LTTE, but these are regions with lots of jungles where these people have been operating for a long time, the last 25 years or more.
The International Committee of the Red Cross is saying that about 250,000 civilians are trapped in the conflict zone. How dangerous a situation is this for those civilians?
It would be extremely dangerous because it's a very small area from what I see in the map where they are trapped. And it's not an area with great facilities, medical facilities, food, all of that would be very hard to get across. And with the fighting going on and the LTTE encircled out there, I suspect that these people would be the meat in the sandwich.
There are some reports of 300 civilian deaths. The government is describing that as a hoax. What do you think the likelihood of that having happened is?
I suspect that it is very high that it has happened. I wouldn't place much credence on the statements coming from the government. I think it's a bit like what is happening in Gaza or Iraq or wherever. There's a ritualistic denial of civilian casualties.
So you think it's very likely in the last couple of weeks there's been 300 deaths?
It is very, very likely. I mean, if you think of the area, the fact that hundreds of thousands of people are trapped in this area, and the military is encircling and using heavy artillery and so on, it would be incredible if there aren't major civilian casualties.
In fact, you're quite aware of and critical of what you call a bit of a propaganda campaign that the Sri Lankan government runs on this.
Oh, indeed.
Tell us a bit about that.
For the last 2 years or so, the government has been engaged in this concerted drive against the LTTE. And part of that has been the mobilization of massive resources. The economy is straining at the edges. The government absolutely needs to declare a major military victory before the economic crisis really hits. Already it is really putting major strains. And in order to get that and get that quickly, they really have to show that they are winning, which they are in many ways, and two, particularly because of sensitivities internationally, and certainly it's a major factor in South India now, and in India overall, but in South India, the very sensitive issue of civilian Tamil casualties. So they want to ensure that the whole operation is seen to be a very surgical operation. We have seen this before in other global conflicts. Civilian casualties are denied. There are no civilian casualties. All precision targeting of military installations, just not believable.
How justified do you think are the claims to a separate state for the Tamils in that region?
Yeah, I would phrase it differently in the sense how justified. There's, in my view, I'm a Sinhalese. In my view, there is no doubt that the Tamils have had systematic discrimination practiced against them, at least since 1956. And the majority Sinhalese governments have never really accepted the rights of the Tamils to live in the sort of multicultural society that we see here, for example. It was very clear just a few weeks ago. The current army commander made a statement that this is a country of the Sinhalese. Sinhalese are 75% of the population, and Tamils and others should recognize that they're a minority, and we'll treat them well, but don't expect equality. It's a Sinhalese Buddhist country, and under those circumstances, I don't expect even a major military victory at this point in time to mark the end of this conflict.
So in the Tamils' continued struggle then for a homeland, what sort of humanitarian disaster do you think this could bring about?
I think in the immediate term, what is likely to happen is, these people are trapped. There's much more international attention being paid. So I certainly hope that civilian casualties would be minimized at least. But the continuing conflict will continue to inflict civilian casualties. I expect that the LTTE, once they lose territory, will go back into more acts of random terror and so on, which had been their hallmark in the past. So I just don't see peace dawning, if that's...
Mr. Jayasuriya, thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you.